Jesus Christ, what was that?
Was my dog.
So the dog did go for the light.
The light over. Yeah.
Yeah, he's had enough. Oh, mate.
This is the official Leeds United podcast.
While I was at Ellen Road, somebody dropped off.
Oh, here we go again.
A special little something for me. How
Bex,
cool is that?
For those people who are just listening to the podcast, can you describe what you're holding up on the screen right now?
I'm holding a mini-me, and not that type of mini-me, guys and girls. I'm holding. It's called a Funko Pop, and it was made by a guy called Mark Bryan. So big shout out, Mark Bryan. Thank you very much for hand making this little miniature version of myself. Captain's armband and all. I don't know if you can see that. Number 9, massive head. I have to say, it's slightly out of proportion, but but how cool is it? It's amazing. I'm going to take this all over the place with me. So
I actually think it's very realistic.
We barely struggled to cope with one of you, Bex. I don't know if we can have 2 of you, mate. So
don't you dare talk about him like that again. Don't you dare talk about Jerry like that again. Did you see that? The mouth didn't move.
It was uncanny. It was unbelievable.
It's not even Jermaine speaking. It's me. Look. The mouth's not moving.
Quite good, to be fair. That is, I mean, again, not really helpful on a podcast medium. But for the people at home, Bex's mouth is not moving at all. It's not really remarkable.
Britain's Got Talent. You better watch out.
And Bex, to add to your list of talents, we saw you doing the FA Cup draw very well, looking very smart. Did you enjoy that?
I did indeed. It was a brilliant day. I didn't get to say much, 12 words, but look. I'm happy. Look, this is one of the bizarre things for me, right? When I was a kid growing up, I used to watch the FA Cup draw and I used to wait for my team to come out and put the 2 teams together and see who's going to come out next. And all of a sudden, like, it's gone full circle where I've not only been able to play in those games where in the FA Cup and create some amazing memories, but also I've had this opportunity and I've been fortunate enough to do it a couple of times now. And it's still as nerve-wracking as ever. Because like you pick the ball up and your hand's shaking a little bit and the camera guy is saying, no, put it a little bit further to your left. No, a bit more to your right. And you're like, oh my gosh, tilt the ball down, tilt the ball up. And there's so much, you've got the earpiece in. But it's one of those dream come true moments. It's fantastic.
It's kind of glossed over these days with all the different trophies that are available. But the FA Cup still,
not to the lower league teams, it's not.
It's still a massive deal, isn't it? I still love the FA Cup.
It's huge. Like I was talking to a couple of the directors at Wrexham, but also a few of the teams that were involved in the draw also, and they were talking about the amounts of money that they're able to get off the back of it. Now it may not seem like a lot of money compared to for Premier League or Championship or even League One teams, but when you're talking about having a home draw and the revenue is like 40-50 grand, that's their budget for the season. So they're able to get that sort of money for the season, and it will set them up for the following season or 2 as well. So, it is huge. It's a huge opportunity, huge moments for them, but it's also a great time and a great opportunity as well, for them to possibly go to these bigger league clubs that they wouldn't normally necessarily get to play against, and people they watch on television or teams they've supported as children. They get to go to those stadiums, but not only enjoy it as a fan, they're actually on the pitch, and it's actually relevant to them and where they are at that time. It's amazing. And I love it.
Naturally, you've had some pretty good moments in the FA Cup, haven't you? So,
yeah.
He doesn't like to talk about them.
Just one or 2.
All Leeds, aren't we? The official Leeds United podcast.
The fight back was really, really remarkable. Greenwood's goal. Out of nowhere, but just what a strike, what a finish, and then that just seemed to ignite the entire team. And then obviously Captain Cooper jumps up with a cracking header from Greenwood's corner. So again, the substitute making a huge difference. And then that final goal. I mean, Willy Gnonto is just. I mean, how does he even stay on his feet? I mean, he gets a shove in the back.
Well, he's very low to the ground anyway, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true. And then the composure to finish, at 3-3 with 10 minutes to go for a 21-year-old, and just the composure to finish that is just astonishing. And I think that we can't, as Bex, I'm hoping we'll talk about defensive frailties and stuff, but we certainly can't ignore the sheer commitment and mental strength to get 3 points from that game. Bex, a few of us in the pub remarked that it kind of that Greenwood goal reminded us a bit of Johnny Howson with Bristol Rovers. It just gave that impetus for the team to just go, we can do this. Did you see similarities there?
Yeah, I think he's definitely got a point to prove. He was playing with a point to prove, definitely. You look at how he, the last performance that he had, and it wasn't terrible, but it was a while ago. And he wants to play. He wants to start every game, and he wants to kick on as well. You could say the same for Somerville. You could say the same for Willie Nonto. You could say the same for any of the young players. You know, they see themselves as a major part of this team, and rightly so. But just because you see yourself as a major part, it doesn't mean you're going to get that opportunity. And when you do get it, you have to make sure you take it. The way we finished the game, second half, well, the last half an hour, last 35 minutes of the game, you have to say they were unbelievable. Now, if we started the game in that manner, it's arguable to say that maybe we could have ended up going in 3-0 up, 4-0 up. Right. You know, so it's frustrating. And I had a quick chat with Jesse Marsh after the game as well, and he was like, wow, we don't know how to do it easy, do we? You know, so it's frustrating himself as well, and he's putting in a lot of work with his backroom staff.
What do you think that is, Bex? I mean, was it that Bournemouth came out the blocks and we had to wait for them to get tired?
They were really well organised. They were really well drilled, and they did the simple things well. So you mentioned briefly before, the way they pressed in like 2s and 3s, and they set little traps, and as soon as the ball went from the middle of the pitch to the side, to the left wing or the right wing, they would close down in two or three different players at a time. They would close the player down individually straight away, but they'll also stop the pass into whoever the next option is. But what Bournemouth did really well, they sussed out very quickly as well, may I add, that as soon as we start closing them down in one area, for example, Raz was, when the ball went from the centre half to the left back for Bournemouth, Raz closed him down so quickly. But what that does, it leaves a massive gaping hole around the corner for the left back to just swing his right foot at it around the corner. And that's what they did a couple of times. Philip Billing got in a couple of times. Solanke got in a couple of times. What's the big fella called? Was playing number 9. Oh my gosh, Kiefer Moore. He did it as well, and they did it absolutely perfectly well. But we needed to just throw the brakes on just for a minute and say, look, this is happening every time we go to close this guy down. He goes around the corner and it's leaving a massive hole at the back. Instead of us sprinting to close him down, how about we drop off a little bit, let him have the ball in that left back position, because he's not going to cause any issues there, really. Right. And as soon as the ball goes from the left back into the winger or into the centre midfield players, then we'll be in a better, a stronger position to close them down in clusters. That's what we started to do better the second half. And that's why the game changed. You have to look at the personnel as well that was brought on. You mentioned Sam earlier. He did really, really well. Brought himself up to a completely new level of standard. So now we know he's capable of that. That's what we want to see every week. His technical ability in the corner, in his goal as well, his passing ability, unbelievable. William Nonto, I would argue he's definitely going to be pushing for a starting spot as well. Based on that second half performance, I thought he was unbelievable. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely unbelievable. But again, I had a conversation with him afterwards, himself and Cree at Somerville, and they were buzzing with it. But it was no surprise to them how well they played, not just those two as individuals, but them as a team. You know, so it's exciting to see where we are, the last two performances especially, but where we could go once we've ironed out all of those finer details.
Talk to us a little bit about their relationship, if you can, Bex, because obviously, like, Somerville's been with us. Mates. Oh, mate, it looks that way, doesn't it? And he mentioned it to us a bit on the show last week, and obviously Marsh has been talking about it. Somerville's been in the 21s for a little while now, and he's been playing with Joffy and with Greenwood. He knows those guys, but obviously Nonto's new. But they seem to have just become like firm friends immediately. Did you sense that when you were chatting to him?
Yeah, 100%. It's like they've known each other years.
Right.
What you have to remember is you tend to gravitate when you're a football player. You gravitate towards people that are in your position or that benefit you in terms of an attacking aspect. So you build those understandings, those friendships, those relationships, and you end up spending so much time with them, on and off the pitch. And that's what they're doing. They're spending a lot of time on and off the pitch together. They understand each other's humour, which is really funny, to be honest with you. Just watching them interact and listening to them. It's like listening to your two younger brothers just going at each other, but there's an ultimate love there. It's absolutely amazing.
Bex, how easy is it to, as a player, when you're in the throes of a game, to temper that enthusiasm almost? Like, how long can that take to do?
Oh, you're talking to the wrong person. I was quite
I was just thinking.
I was quite calm and relaxed in front of out there. Too relaxed apparently sometimes. But it just depends on the players that you've got around you, the people that you've got talking in your ear, like the coaches, the managers. You've got the experienced pros, the skipper. You've got for myself, it's a strike partner or the centre midfield players. It just depends on the leaders that you have, the calming influences that you have. Like, I was quite fortunate. I had lots of players. I had people like Richard Naylor. I had Paddy Kisnorbo, for example, Michael Doyle. Like, I've got lots of these guys who are natural born leaders. So if you weren't doing something, or you found yourself in the wrong area or at the wrong time or whatever it may be, they'll pull you in and they'll tell you where to be and what to do and how to do it, and calm yourself down or build yourself up or give us a little bit more, or Now, because everybody's so well drilled in the areas that they're supposed to be all of the time, the positions they're supposed to be, the passes, the movement, all of that stuff, I don't feel like they need to have as many out and out leaders like what we did at the time. They've still got leaders, but in a different way. Like, Coops is a vocal leader and he's fantastic at it. But then you've got people like Tyler Adams, who he's a visual leader. So he will lead by example. He will go and close somebody down, and he won't give up there. He'll drop back and try and close somebody else. And Mark will do Rocker will do the same thing, and So we've got a lot of visual leaders, but in terms of the vocal leader, I'm not sure they're loads. But I don't think we need that, though. That's the thing. I don't think we need it.
Listening on together.
We're recording this podcast on Tuesday, hence why we're not talking about the Carabao Cup game against Wolves. But we are going to look ahead to Spurs, of course, the last Premier League game before the World Cup kicks off. Matt, how are you feeling ahead of that Spurs game?
I don't know. This is the point I'm trying to make.
There's a running theme here.
It is. I don't know what this season is. I think it's that, you asked me before Chelsea, and I said, I think this is a big test. I think we might struggle here today. We win 3-0. I said to everyone, even when we went 1-0 up against Liverpool, I was like, yeah, we'll probably lose 5-1. We win 2-1. And Spurs is one of those teams that, they're big six for some reason. I see no reason why we can't get points from this game. I really don't. They've got a few players out. I think that Leeds should be feeling really confident right now. And I'm hoping that, Jesse suggested a few weeks ago, that Leeds looked like they were waiting to lose. And he wanted to get that belief that they could win. If they don't believe from the start of the first whistle that they can win on Saturday, then they never will, after the last 2 weeks. And so I really don't know. And it's not even a case of which Leeds turns up either. I just don't know. It just depends on the shape of the game, what happens early on. But I tell you, I'm not going into it thinking we're going to get battered. I'm really not. I really do believe that we have a chance to get something.
Bex?
Yeah, I'm with you. Spurs are a funny team at the moment. They're a funny team at the moment. They start games slowly. They get back into the game. They look pretty decent, but they've got a lot of players out. They've got a couple of, matter of fact, I think they've got the two key players are fit, coming back to full fitness.
Yeah, Kulusevski came on, didn't he, last week?
Got an assist. But
Richarlison's still out, is he?
I think he might be in the squad. I think he's in the squad.
Forget what I said about players out there. They're all back.
Yeah. Like I saw him. So he got his Brazil call up, didn't he? And he's jumping around the place. So he looks like he's
right. Okay.
He's not holding any injuries, which is frustrating. But then you've got those two. You've got Harry Kane. They've got creative players, but they start slow. They're notoriously slow starters. So if we can start the game off the same way that we started against Bournemouth, the first 2 minutes rather than the rest of that half, then I'm pretty sure we'll cause them all sorts of issues, all sorts of problems. But that's where we come into our own, because we love to do that overload, that high intensity press on the left, on the right, in the middle, up top. That's what we do. We're fantastic at it. And they looked like, in the last couple of games, Spurs, they looked like they didn't like teams playing in their face. You know, they want to be a little bit hands-offy and just drop off a little bit, and you have it over there kind of thing. But I think if we just get in their face right from the off, we can cause them a good few problems.
Because how do you think they're going to set up, Bex? I mean, do you think that they're going to, like you said there, stand off and hope to hit us on the break with their pace, of which they have plenty up front? Or do you think that they'll show us less respect and say, hang on a minute, we're in, you know, the Champions League spots, we're gonna go at you? But then they've got to be careful that they know that might not work against this Leeds team, as it's been shown against other top teams.
No chance. Antonio Conte doesn't take anything for granted. I'm telling you that now. So every single game he goes into it saying, first thoughts, we do not lose. The first thought is we do not lose. So he's not going to be thinking, let's just steamroll these lot. That's not going to be in his thought process.
Right.
It's going to be, if we turn this into an ugly game, keep ourselves defensively sound, defensively solid, keep a flat bank of 4 at the back or 5 or whatever it is they play. I think it was the 3 with the 2 wing backs. Then he'll be happy with that, because they normally play the 2 defensive players in midfield and then 2 defensive wide players as well. So I think the last game, they started off the game with 8 defensive players or 9 defensive players on the pitch.
Wow.
You know, Harry Kane was the only offensive player they had starting.
Wow.
You know, they had Perisic that was playing up front with him, but he's like a fullback, left back or a right back. He was fantastic, by the way, don't get me wrong. But I can't see anything other than a very defensive-minded team, apart from Harry Kane and possibly Kulusevski with Richarlison on the bench. So very, very difficult to break down, very difficult to dissect, to get in behind. But then I think they'll try and hit us on the counter-attack, which seems to be a little bit of a frailty for us.
Well, if you are heading to that game, safe travels and make sure you're in full voice as you were at Ellen Road at the weekend, because being above the South Stand was phenomenal. They did not shut up. Oh, it was brilliant. I've missed that atmosphere so much. Lads, before we wrap up, I just want to ask you, what do you think of the timing of the World Cup in the season? Do you think it's beneficial or otherwise for this?
Rubbish. I think it's rubbish.
This is the official Leeds United podcast.